Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is Ben from Dorset Design Build with episode 2 of how to design a Fender Acoustasonic Tele in Fusion 360. In this episode, we're going to get into how to do the body shell. And for the first time, I really wanted to be able to get accurate measurements on certain things in this body shell. So, no better way to do that than to take it from an actual Acoustasonic. And don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, give the thumbs up, all that good stuff. But most importantly, leave comments. I really enjoy hearing from the people who watch these videos. And if you want access to all the files, including drawings and photos and patent information and some specs on the guitar, join my Patreon site and you will have team access to all of the Fusion files. So let's get started. Okay, here's where we stand after the first video. We've got an outline of the Acoustic Tele body. Next, I'm going to add some parameters. So I'm going to close down the data panel here and go to Change Parameters, Set User Parameter. And these are all measurements that I took off of my Acoustasonic Tele. So I'm going to start with the body depth, which is the body thickness, and that's 1 3/4 inches. The next parameter is the back depth, which is the thickness of the back. And I kind of calculated, and that looks like that's about 3/16 of an inch. And let's see. I've also got the side depth. This is probably the most crucial of all these things. The side depth is 1/2 inch, which kind of surprised me that it was this thick. And I've also got, let's see, the sound hole diameter, or the sound port, which is 3 inches. And the ledge that the top will sit on. So the ledge is cut into the sides. So this is going to be called the top ledge width. And again, I was pretty surprised with the width of this. The top ledge is a full 1/4 inch. Okay, so that'll get us going here. So I'm going to do an OK. So next up, what I want to do is I want to do a couple of offsets from this outer perimeter. And the first one, well, let me go ahead and do it here. So we're going to go into the master sketch, the master component, I should say, and go to our body outline sketch, and I'll right click on that and do an edit sketch. Okay, so I'm going to select as much of this outer perimeter as I can with a double click, and then I'll shift click to select the rest. So I've got it all selected here. I'm going to go up to offset and then bring this little slider inward. So this is going to be the full thickness of our sides. So instead of entering a number here, I'm going to use one of our parameters. So if I type in side, all of a sudden side depth pops up, so I'm going to click on that. So that's our 1/2 inch offset. Now, so that's essentially the thickness of the guitar, although there are other cavities here that thicken it up quite a bit. But by default, this is our minimum thickness all the way around. What I want to do now is I want to do another offset from the outer curves. So I'll double click, shift double click. Well, tell you what, let's first go to our offset. Then we don't have to do any shifting. Then we can just click once we're in offset. Okay, so here's our perimeter again, and I'm going to do another offset, and this one's going to be about halfway in between. And this is going to be our body thickness, or our side thickness, or side depth, minus the ledge. So if I just type in ledge, I get top ledge width here. Okay. So this is the two of these. If I select both of these, that's the thickness of our sides. And if I just hover over this one profile, that's the ledge that's going to be recessed by the thickness of the top. Okay. So what I found doing this a few times is, since none of this is constrained, and we're going to come in and cut some of these, and we're going to do some tangency and everything, it's really a good idea to fix some of this or all of it. So I'm going to double click and shift double click over here and go up to the fix constraint. And now you'll see that outer perimeter shows up as green. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this inner perimeter. I'm in my fix constraint, so now I can just click on all of this. And let's see. So now that's green. It's either green or black. Black is fully constrained here. So let me go ahead and fix the rest. It's probably overkill to do a bunch of the geometry up here, but I've found just when setting tangency, every once in a while some weird stuff happens. And you know, if you're zoomed in, you don't see it. So this is a good way to prevent surprises that you don't discover until you're quite a bit farther down the road of creating some of these curves. Okay, so we've got these three sets of curves defined, and now there's a whole lot of information here on the screen. So I think I'm going to hide my constraints. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, let's pop up the canvas and take a look at, see what we've got here. So if I get my body top canvas, we have defined, you know, these two is the thickness of the sides of the guitar. And you can see the top protrudes into that, and that's what this ledge is. So here we've got extra thickness on the mahogany sides. So that's what we want to work on in this video, is to define this. And since we've got this curve right here, we're going to, you know, draw this over our canvas, and then we're going to come inwards of that by the ledge thickness or the ledge width. Okay, so the way I would do this is, or the way I'm going to do it is, I'm going to put a cut line. I'm kind of defining where this body, where this, this top comes away from this line right here. So I'm going to come up in this, we're still in the sketch, I'm going to get a line, and I'm going to make it construction, and now I'm going to come kind of perpendicular to these two lines, which is almost vertical, but maybe a little bit in like this. And again, I'm trying to get the point, and I can move this around after making it, but I'm going to try to get this to the point where the top kind of diverges from this ledge line, or this ledge profile. And the same thing over here. I'm going to get a line, and I'm still in construction, and I'm going to see where this comes away from our ledge line. So I'd say it's somewhere around here. And here I'm making this line perpendicular to, or approximately perpendicular. Okay. So if we highlight this line, I can see it a little bit better. I would say maybe down to here. Okay. So now I'm going to hide the canvas. And we've got these two lines. I'm going to call these the break lines. And so what we're going to do is actually break these curves at those lines, delete them, and then come in with a curve that subscribes to this body armrest. Okay, so let's do our trimming first. So I'm going to come up to trim, and let's see. Now when I hover over this, you can see the red line here. So I can actually trim that away, and then these two in the middle. Okay, great. So we're going to redefine this channel here to be, closer towards the sound hole. All right, so we turn our canvas back on so that we have an area where we can see. And basically, I'm now going to do a spline starting here and ending here, and basically trace over, I would say, the outside of this binding. Okay. Now, you can either just jump in and do a spline, or sometimes what I do is I come down and get points and kind of define the points here. And so these are going to be where I'm going to click with my spline. Makes it a little bit easier. And we can kind of zoom out and take a look at those points and see. The spread looks pretty good here. I'm going to hit escape and maybe move these around a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to go up to spline, and I'm going to start here. So I want to make sure I've got my intersection here, and then I'm going to intersect with all of these points. I'm in construction geometry, but I'll go ahead and fix that in a second. All right, so I've got 5 points here. I'm going to click on the check mark and then hit escape to get out of my spline tool, and then click on this and press X to toggle it back to real geometry. Okay, so following my spline workflow, the first thing you want to do is make the ends of these tangent. So let's go ahead and hide the canvas, and I've got this line selected. Sometimes it's kind of hard to select a line versus its control handles. So if you zoom in, it's easier to do that. So I've got this line selected. I'm going to go up to tangent. Well, you know what? When we did this cut, you'll see that some of these lines turned blue again. So I'm going to hit escape. And the first thing I'm going to do is to refix these lines, put the fix constraint back on them. So this guy and this guy turned blue on us, and that turned blue as well. And I guess that's also should be fixed. Okay, so the only blue line, the only non-constrained line, is the curve that we just made. Okay, so we can go back to our tangent constraint and select the spline we just made, and this right here, and then do that again over on this end of the spline, clicking here and then making that tangent to here. Okay, so now we probably want to turn our canvas back on so we can see how accurate this is. And you can see we kind of dipped in a little bit right here. So I'm going to hit escape to get out of my tangent constraint. Oops, ended up hiding my canvas. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do is move points if we need to. The points still look like they're in a good spot. So now we'll go to our control handles and make the changes with those. And a lot of times what I've found is shortening them is generally what you need to do. Shortening them and, angling them a little bit. So this is quite a bit off. So I'm going to shorten this handle. And you can see that's bringing that curve in on top of the binding. And let's see. This one looks a little off too, so I'm going to click on the spline, get the handle, shorten that, and angle it a little bit. Okay. So let's click on our spline and see where we're at. That looks pretty good there. That's a little funky right there. So let's see. I'm actually going to end up lengthening this guy a little bit. All right, so I'm happy with that. So let's hide our canvas. And now what we need to do is to make this channel. So we want to go inward from this curve that we just made and link it up to these two curves. And then we'll have our channel done. Okay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fix this also. So now all of these curves are fixed. And what we're going to do is to try the offset tool and offset this curve by the distance of that ledge, the ledge width. So I'm going to go up to offset, and I want to go in this direction. I want to turn off construction geometry, and then I can type in, this is going to be a negative distance, so I'll just type in ledge, and here's my top ledge width. So I'll click on that and then do an OK. Now, let's see what we've got here. If I hover over the outer perimeter, we get a profile. But if I hover over this ledge slot, I can't select it. In fact, I'm selecting the entire body. So let's see what the problem is. If we zoom in, here's the problem. We've got a gap right here. And let's see if we've got one on the other side too. We do. Okay, so my first attempt at fixing this would be to make these 2 points coincident and the opposite 2 points. Now, if you're working like this and this, this profile keeps selecting, you can actually go into your sketch palette and turn show profile off, and now you won't get that nasty profile selection. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out, just make sure that everything is fixed here except for the curve that we're working on. And let's see if we can make these two coincident. So I'm going to get my coincident constraint, zoom in, click on this point, and I get an error here. Let's see what happens on the other side. So we're still in coincident constraint. Click on this point, and we also get an error. And it's saying that there's a bunch of tangencies that need to be deleted or modified. I have gone through this. If you click on this, you can see which tangency it's complaining about. You can see that those guys are those constraint icons are getting highlighted here. I've gone through this when I was practicing and deleted all of those tangencies, and it still didn't fix the problem. So what I decided to do instead is to manually redraw this. I still want this 1/4 inch distance between these two lines, but it doesn't have to be super precise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eventually delete this line, but before I do that, I'm going to go up to points and put points along the line. So we don't need a start point. We're going to start here when we redraw this spline. But I'm going to do about 5 points. So I'll do one kind of in the middle here. And then, well, I probably don't want that. I'm going to undo. Let's go back to point. So if I do one here, one here, one here, one here, that's quite a few points. So I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got 5 inner points. So we'll go with that. If you don't like the shape, you could actually move one of these points around. And you see it's staying coincident to the line that we originally clicked on here. So I'm just going to try to spread these points so that they're somewhat equidistant between each other. All right, that should be good enough. All right, so now I can actually click on this line and delete it without the points going away. You can see the points are still there. So I'm going to go up to Spline, and now I want to make sure that I'm intersecting with each of these points. Most importantly, the start and end point. Okay, so I can click, and that looks pretty good, but of course, let's go to our spline workflow here. Hit escape. First thing we want to do is make this tangent to this line, which really fixed the curve very nicely. And then do the same thing here. Get our newly created spline here and make that tangent to what it's connected to. Okay. So let's see, let's turn off as much stuff as we can here. Let's turn off show points, and also constraints are off. And let's see what we got here. If we turn our canvas back on, you can see that's pretty good. Okay, so now I want to show the profiles, and I'll hide the canvas. And I want to make sure that I can select this inner ledge. And there it is. So I can hover over that and select that entire thing. So that's pretty much all we need to do for the sketch. So I'm going to finish the sketch here. And now is the fun part. Well, you know what? Let's go back in the sketch and fix this line. So I can right-click and edit the sketch, which is a nice little shortcut. And you kind of see this looks a little flat here, but you know, if you want to mess with this, you'd have to unfix this line and then pull up the canvas and, you know, do some modifications here. I think what I would do is I would, oops, lost our canvas again. I would, you know, kind of change this point around a little bit. It's a little bit nicer of a curve. All right, let's hide the canvas, and that looks better. All right, so again, we have what we need to do our extrusions. So I'm going to finish the sketch, and now we're going to make a body, the body of the guitar body. So what I want to do is, you know, we were working in master here on this sketch. Let's collapse master up. So we're going to go to the top level component, activate that. We're going to make a new component, and I'm going to call this the body. So this is the guitar body. And within that component, we are going to create the actual body, the fusion body. Okay, so we created a new component, we activated it, so when we start extruding, that's where that body will exist. I think what I would do is extrude, we can do this in a couple of different manners. Let's extrude the full side first, which is going to be both of these profiles, and then we'll worry about the ledge. Okay, so I'm going to go to extrude, and I want to select two profiles now, this one and this one. And I'm going to extrude this downwards, so this is negative. And this is going to be our body depth. So I just typed in body, here's our body depth. I've got some extra stuff in there to delete. And there we go. So we can do an OK. This created a fusion body right here. And let's just click on this line, and here's our 1 3/4 depth. All right. Now, if we want this to be mahogany, I'm going to hit A for appearance, and let's do a search for mahogany. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so there are some mahoganies here. Here's a 3D mahogany unfinished, so that's what I want. I'm going to drag this over to the body component so that all bodies within this body component will get that mahogany. Okay, so I'm going to close down appearance. All right, so step 2, we're going to make this ledge here. So we're going to do another extrude. I'm going to hover over this ledge. And now we're going to go downward, and the distance that we want to go is the thickness of our top. So if I delete all of this and I type in top ledge width, no, I don't think I did a top depth. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go off to our parameters again, and I'm going to add a user parameter here, and this is going to be the top depth. And I'm going to go with kind of a standard acoustic, maybe on the thick side, but 0.1 for our depth of our top. Okay. So the depth of our top is defining the depth of our ledge here for the top to sit in so that it's flush with the outer part of the body. Okay, so back to extrude. Hover over this profile. Push this downward so Fusion automatically goes into cut mode here. And type in negative ledge. Oops, negative. I want my top now. Negative top. Here it is, top depth. Okay. And enter. Okay, so if we hide the sketch, hide all the master component here, we can see we've got the ledge and we've got, you know, the full outer thickness here. And it looks like we've got, you know, we've got our extra material for our comfort arm cut, but we don't have a back. So let's go back in and show our sketches, and then we'll be able to hover here. So now if I click on this and I go to extrude, I want to start my extrusion quite a bit offset from this. So this is my profile plane, and I want to start instead from an offset. So that offset is going to be equal to, let's see, let's go in a downward direction here. Offset is going to be equal to, are we going in the right direction? Negative, I think. Okay. The body thickness, so our body depth minus our back depth. So I think what we've got to do is we've got to put that in parentheses. So our back depth minus our body depth is where we're going to start our extrusion, okay? And the distance of our extrusion is going to be also negative. This is going to be our back depth. And then we're going to do a join. So we want what the extrusion that we just did is going to become part of this body. So I'm going to click here and let's see what we get. Let's hide our master, and there is our back. So I'm going to go into actually do a section here, just make sure that that thickness is what I think it is. So let's see, here's section analysis. So we're going to pick a cut plane. Let's come around here. Here's the plane we want to be on. And now we can push this section in to where we have, you know, we can see the sides and we can see the bottom. So I'm going to do an OK. And I'm going to go up to analysis. This is where our section is. And we'll probably be doing a few of these. So I'm going to name this body shell. Okay. And let's look at it straight on. And let's go ahead and measure. So I'm going to do an I for inspect. I'm going to click on this line and this line. And let's zoom in. And it says 0.534. I'm not quite sure why that is. That should be our 3/16 for our back depth. Let's see what we get for our side depth here. Inspect from this line. Oop, let's reset our inspect. So I'm going to go from this line to this line. And this gives us our half inch thickness. So let me try this one again. Reset, I tell you what, we can also go from surface to surface. So I'm going to go from this surface to this surface, and let's see what we get here. We get 188, so 1875 probably, which is our back depth. Okay, so I don't know how I screwed that up before, but so now you can see exactly what we're getting here. We're getting, you know, in this shell, we've got our back, which is part of it, and our sides, and our ledge for our top to sit on. And we've got material here to do our arm rest. So I'm going to go ahead and turn analysis off. And let's swing this back around. And I think that I'm going to stop there. So the next time, the next video, we're going to fill in, there's solid pieces here and there's some solid reinforcement here, kind of where the end grain is. I think they realized that, you know, this little end grain is not going to be very strong, so they reinforced it, you know, with additional thickness, which does mean we're going to have to move our well, we're actually going to make our ledge bigger, so we're not going to have to move our ledge, but we're going to have to extrude that up to be continuous with this ledge. Okay, well, hope you enjoy the series, and if you want access to the files, including the drawings that I've got here and the photos, and also including some stuff that I've got online, which is the specifications for the guitar and some other things. Let me pull this over here into view. I've got some wiki pages. So if you join the Patreon site, you will be invited to join this Fusion team, and that will allow you to see all of this stuff, including these wiki pages, which are some valuable information here that I'm accumulating on this guitar as I measure things and discover things online. I'll show you right now. We have 10 people in the group, and so I've got you know, the Acoustasonic specs. I've got a list of parts. I will eventually have the blank sizes so that, you know, if you want to order wood ahead of time to make this, you'll know what the blank sizes are. So some good information in these wiki pages, in addition to all of the Fusion files you'll have full access to, and you'll get it, you know, you can get it anytime I do an update. You don't have to rely on me remembering to upload this stuff to Patreon. All right, well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.